Hey everybody, Erick Stakelbeck here, and tonight I have my professor hat on because it's CUFI University here on Facebook Live. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday night. You could be doing a lot of things right now, but you're here with us. You're here on Facebook, and we're glad to have you with us here at Christians United for Israel. We do these Facebook Live events pretty frequently, I guess you would say, but CUFI University is really one of our specialties here, I guess you would say, where once a month, a member of our CUFI staff steps up at night and gives you an overview on a very, very pressing topic going on right now involving Israel. Well, tonight we have a few we want to talk about. First, the growth of Hezbollah. The Hezbollah threat not only to Israel, but to the United States, to the West, and to the world. And number two, the significance of the United States. We just heard the announcement last week by the Trump administration, the United States moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem on May 14th. Imagine that, to coincide with Israel's 70th anniversary. It's miraculous rebirth as a nation. If you're just joining us, my name is Erick Stakelbeck. I host the Christians United for Israel Watchman show every week on TBN, every Friday night, 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central, 7:30 Pacific. Also catch us on Wednesday evenings, 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, 3:30 Pacific. I've become an expert on time zones these past 2 years since we launched the show, but be sure to tune in so we can bring you cutting-edge news from on the ground in Israel every week. Okay, we have a limited amount of time tonight. If you're just joining us, thank you for joining us. We're going to start with Hezbollah. And folks, I think a great place to start is to rewind to about a month ago, February 10th, in Syria, really starting along the Syria-Israel border. We talked about this on a previous Facebook Live event here for Christians United for Israel, but just a brief recap because Hezbollah ties into this, folks. We had a major flare-up between Israel and Iran, a direct confrontation in Syria between Israel and Iran. Long story short, Iran flew a drone into Israeli territory. The Israelis shot it down. It was a hostile act, a provocation by the Iranian regime. Israeli fighter jets bombed at least 12 Iranian and Syrian military targets inside Syria as a response. And in the process, an Israeli fighter jet was shot down the first time in 36 years. Thankfully, the pilots were unharmed. One was hurt pretty seriously. He's recovering now. The other one was okay. I say all that to say, Iran is in Syria for the long haul. They're not going anywhere, which means Iran's most lethal, its most dangerous, its most well-armed proxy, Hezbollah, is also in Syria for the long haul. Folks, the ISIS caliphate in Syria and Iraq has largely been smashed. This is a great thing. President Trump kept his word once again. That caliphate has shrunk. ISIS in the Middle East, at least, is on the run without a doubt. But the absence of ISIS in Syria and them kind of melting away into the desert or being killed or captured, the absence of ISIS now in Syria has created a vacuum. And Iran has filled that vacuum, and shoulder to shoulder with the Iranian regime is Hezbollah. Now, Hezbollah, just for some background for you, it was founded in 1982 by Iran. The Iranian regime created Hezbollah. It was created by Iran. It's funded by Iran. Hezbollah takes its marching orders from the Iranian regime in Tehran. Hezbollah is based in southern Lebanon. It has a stronghold there just to the north of Israel, right along Israel's northern border in southern Lebanon. That is Hezbollah's main stronghold. They also have a pretty sizable presence in the suburbs around Beirut in Lebanon as well. But Hezbollah has set up shop there with Iranian support, with Iranian funding, right on Israel's northern border. Literally, I'll talk about that in a minute. And they have, according to some estimates, 150,000 rockets and missiles aimed at every inch of Israel. According to other estimates, perhaps Hezbollah has 200,000 rockets and missiles aimed at every inch of the tiny Jewish state, which, by the way, is the size of the state of New Jersey. Imagine that. If you have that large rocket arsenal that Hezbollah has, folks, it's not hard to blanket all of Israel from top to bottom with those rockets, which are supplied by the Iranian regime, chiefly through Syria. Why is Syria so important to Iran? Number one, it's a way for them to transit weapons to Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. It's their gateway to the Mediterranean Sea. And Syria is the place where Iran now wants to gain a foothold. They have Gaza, Hamas in Gaza. They have southern Lebanon with Hezbollah there. The Golan on Israel's northern border as well with Syria. Iran is hell-bent now, folks, on establishing a terror base there as well, and they're going to do it with the help of Hezbollah. Hezbollah has some 65,000 fighters. That includes a lot of full-time fighters, includes some volunteers, but 65,000 hardcore, radical, Shia, jihadist Hezbollah fighters. Really, folks, it makes, in terms of the fighters and also the weapons arsenal, as we mentioned, rockets and missiles, state-sponsored by Iran. That makes Hezbollah, believe it or not, they're not just a terror group. They're not just a terror organization. Key point there, it makes them one of the largest armies, military forces in the entire Middle East. Hezbollah is not just a terror group. Hezbollah is a terrorist paramilitary force. They've got the rocket and missile arsenal. They've got the manpower. They've got the state support by Iran. They have global reach, Latin America, Europe, even here in the U.S., which we'll discuss also in a minute. But they also have the battlefield experience. We know 2006, obviously. Hard to believe, almost 12 years ago, major war between Israel and Hezbollah. Hezbollah learned a lot from that war. They took heavy losses and heavy lumps, but they learned a lot. But the key for Hezbollah's growth as a fighting force has been the past 7 years and their involvement in Syria, in that Syrian civil war. Now, under the orders of Iran, and again, Hezbollah is an Iranian proxy. They must do what Iran tells them to do. They are Iran's creation, their stalking horse. On Iranian orders, Hezbollah sent thousands of fighters into Syria. Major development. Hezbollah, Iran, and then down comes Russia alongside the Assad regime. That axis of Hezbollah, Iran, Assad, and Russia helped turn the tide in the Syrian civil war. Assad has a heavy upper hand right now. Iran's feeling good about themselves. Again, they filled that vacuum. ISIS largely smashed, a good thing, but then Iran came in. They are experts at filling vacuums. They've done it in Syria. They did it in Iraq. They've done it in Yemen. They've done it in Lebanon. Iran really right now, folks, controls 4 Arab capitals: Damascus, Beirut, Baghdad, and Sana'a in Yemen. This is a growing powerhouse in the region. Hezbollah is an integral part of that Iranian power. Now, in Syria, we've had thousands of Hezbollah fighters gaining invaluable battlefield experience to be used in the next war against Israel. God forbid, but look, we know it's coming. War is coming. We don't know when. We pray it never comes. But I think the flare-up in Syria last month was a harbinger, folks, of things to come, because Iran and Hezbollah, again, are hell-bent on establishing a new front against Israel out of Syria, out of the Golan Heights. They said, we are in Syria to stay. Israel saying no. An Iranian presence, an Iranian Hezbollah foothold presence in Syria on Israel's border is an absolute red line for Israel. They will not tolerate it. That's why you saw that fierce response last month when Iran, in a hostile act, sent a drone into Israeli territory. The Israelis shot it down, and they reacted. They struck Iranian and Syrian military targets inside Syria. Things could have gotten really out of hand, by the way. Thankfully, they didn't. But Iran, it was a provocation, folks. It won't be the last. The Iranian regime is feeling very good about itself right now. They feel like they have the wind at their backs. Look, as I mentioned, they control 4 Arab capitals. They have Russian support. They have powerful proxies, Hezbollah, who we're discussing right now, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And oh, by the way, the Iran nuclear deal. Remember that? That disastrous Iran nuclear deal that our team at Christians United for Israel was on the forefront of opposing. We continue to be on the forefront of opposing it today. That Iranian nuclear deal, folks, released billions of dollars to the Iranian regime, the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism. Wrap your head around that. Billions of dollars given to the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism, a sworn enemy of not only Israel, but the United States, of Europe, of the West, of every free country in the world. And by the way, of any Muslim nation that does not agree, or Muslim individual that does not agree with its jihadist, apocalyptic ideology. So, needless to say, If you're Iran, you're feeling really good about yourselves. Right now, the Iranian regime is attempting to encircle Israel, tiny Israel, again, the size of the state of New Jersey. Imagine that. Attempting to encircle Israel on every side, whether from Gaza, Lebanon, now the Golan. And they want to squeeze Israel like a vise. Let's see who's checking in right now. God bless. Rick Hardy from Birmingham, Alabama. People are writing in and commenting. This is good, folks. We're so glad you're with us on this CUFI U event. And I hope you're learning here. I don't have my professor hat on, but hey, I hope you're learning. The Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. That's one of the verses we live by at Christians United for Israel. We are an educational organization in many ways. And I hope tonight we're educating you. You're getting a sense of what a serious threat Hezbollah is to Israel, to the Middle East, how powerful they are being unleashed and used by Iran. But okay, if you're watching right now, you might say, you know what, Stakelbeck? Hezbollah sounds like a serious threat, a very dangerous enemy, without a doubt, for Israel. But why should we care? Why should we here in the West? Why should we here in the United States? Why should we care? It doesn't affect us. We're pretty comfortable here in the United States, the most prosperous country in the history of the world. Hezbollah, we can flick them. They don't matter. Well, folks, let me share you a little bit of the history of Hezbollah. Number one, the 1983 U.S. Marine barracks bombing in Beirut. 243 brave U.S. Marines slaughtered by a Hezbollah suicide bomber. As a matter of fact, Hezbollah has more American blood on its hands than any other terror organization other than Al-Qaeda. That says a lot. Hezbollah and its Iranian benefactor are sworn enemies of the United States. Make no mistake about it. There's a reason at rallies in Tehran, and yes, even after the Obama administration rewarded the Iranian regime with billions of dollars in sanctions relief, even after that, the Iranian regime continued to chant death to America and refer to America as the Great Satan. Hezbollah also considers the United States the Great Satan. Hezbollah also lives by the motto, death to America. We saw them put it into action in the 1983 Marine barracks bombing, as I mentioned. And guess what? Hezbollah also has a network throughout Latin America, at our doorstep. Now, why would they do that? Why would Iran place its most dangerous proxy, Hezbollah, in our hemisphere, in the Western hemisphere? It's real simple. At the end of the day, Israel in the Iranian Hezbollah ideology is only the little Satan. That's what they call Israel. They call America the Great Satan. We are the ultimate prize, folks. I've got news for you. There's a reason that an Iranian general yesterday, a top Iranian military official, said, we have tripled our missile production over the past few years. Tripled our missile production. Folks, that includes short-range missiles. It includes medium-range missiles. And yes, they don't have them yet, but Iran is looking to develop intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs. They're working on them feverishly. They're exchanging technology with their close ally, North Korea. Maybe nuclear technology as well, I would think. Why would Iran want intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs? They're designed for one reason and one reason only, folks, to be mounted with a nuclear warhead and to do exactly what their name says, to travel across continents. Now, Iran has a large medium-range and short-range ballistic missile stockpile. They can reach all of Israel, all of the Middle East, some of Europe. So those ICBMs are not for Israel or Saudi Arabia or Europe. They're for us. They're for the Great Satan. Now, in the meantime, they've been happy to hand over increasingly advanced weaponry to Hezbollah to make Israel's life absolutely miserable in a future war. And by the way, got to talk about it just for one more second, the Iran nuclear deal. It's the gift that keeps on giving. If you're a terrorist, in that Iran nuclear deal, the billions of dollars that Iran received. Now, think about this, folks. Do you really think that it went to pay for schools and playgrounds and gymnasiums in Tehran? Or did it go into the pockets of Hezbollah and Hamas to develop more sophisticated weaponry, to fund more terror, to destroy schools and playgrounds and gymnasiums in Israel and beyond? Okay, We know Hezbollah has a whole lot of American blood on its hands. If you're just joining us, folks, this is CUFI University. This is a monthly Facebook Live event our team at Christians United for Israel does. And tonight I am your humble professor, and we're teaching about Hezbollah. Really, folks, the world's most dangerous terrorist organization. I say that without hesitation. And really, again, not just a terror organization, but a terrorist army, a terrorist paramilitary. That is Hezbollah. So Hezbollah, we've talked about the threat to Israel, 65,000 Hezbollah fighters, at least 150,000 rockets and missiles aimed at every inch of Israel, a long litany of terror attacks they've carried out throughout the world, a presence in Latin America. But here's a scary thought for you. Congressman Peter King said a few years ago in congressional testimony, Congressman Peter King of New York, said in congressional testimony that he believes there are a few hundred Hezbollah operatives here in the United States, where I am sitting right now. We know we have people watching from around the world, but I'm in the United States now. I'm in Washington, D.C., this area, as a matter of fact, where Peter King testified that hundreds of Hezbollah fighters are likely in the United States. You might say, well, this is all hyperbole, it's alarmism, it's sensationalism. Well, guess what? Over the summer, back in June 2017, 2 Hezbollah operatives were arrested. Yes, with plots to strike on U.S. soil. One of those Hezbollah operatives was scouting out targets in New York City, including JFK Airport. The other was scouting out the Panama Canal. Now, why would Hezbollah want to do that? I'm sure it was just all a coincidence. Folks, we have our eyes so heavily, and rightfully so, over the past few years on ISIS and what a threat ISIS has been. Yes, absolutely. But Hezbollah has something that ISIS never had, a powerful state sponsor in the form of Iran. Not only that, look, the Assad regime has given all sorts of weaponry and sponsorship and funding to Hezbollah as well. So they effectively have 2 state sponsors behind them. That's a scary thought. And just as ISIS controlled territory, right now, Hezbollah controls territory. They control all of southern Lebanon at Israel's doorstep, and you could say they really control most of the country of Lebanon. At the end of the day, Hezbollah is more powerful than the Lebanese army, the official army of Lebanon. Hezbollah, which basically is the ruler, not in name, but behind the scenes in that country, Hezbollah is the most powerful force in Lebanon. That's a scary thought. And not only the territory in Lebanon, but how about the chunks of territory where Hezbollah fighters have a major presence in Syria and Iraq? By the way, how committed is Iran? Hezbollah's benefactor, creator, Hezbollah's daddy. How committed are they to staying in Syria and to having that foothold to strike against Israel? They've not only imported thousands of Hezbollah fighters from Lebanon, they've imported, obviously, Iranian Revolutionary Guards fighters and advisors into Syria as well, but thousands of Shia volunteers from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, and beyond. When it comes to Syria, folks, make no mistake about it, Iran and Hezbollah are in it to win it. And for them to win it means to surround Israel and squeeze it like a vise on every border. Iran's greatest dreams, their greatest plans, their greatest ambitions are coming to fruition right now. Now, Israel will not stand for it. The Iranian entrenchment in Syria is an absolute red line for Israel for obvious reasons. But I believe, as an American sitting here, I believe that we have a few minutes left here. I believe that the United States should not stand for it, and we need to do much more, I believe, to counteract that Iranian presence in Syria, folks, because what happens in Syria will not stay in Syria. We saw that already with ISIS, where plots that were hatched by ISIS in Syria were carried out here in the West, in Europe, in the United States. Well-trained ISIS fighters returning to Europe, striking in Paris, in Brussels. So in that sense, what happens in Syria, 500,000 people killed in the past 7 years. What happens in Syria does not stay in Syria. The refugee flow out of Syria into Europe. But that's the ISIS story. The other story is what Iran does in Syria will not stay in Syria. Folks, there's a very good chance. We mentioned this flare-up last month Israel versus Iran, a direct confrontation over the skies of Syria. That could have quickly escalated into something beyond anyone's control. And a major reason for that, and here's the kicker, which we have to mention before we move on to the Jerusalem embassy news. Russia. Russia is also in Syria. They're also there to stay. They're also not going anywhere. And folks, they are fighting shoulder to shoulder alongside Iran and Hezbollah. Now, how dangerous is that? Russia is not a superpower, although Putin aspires to be a superpower once again. In the political sense, in the global influence sense, they're not a superpower. But as a military, they're still a massive powerhouse with the world's second largest nuclear arsenal. And it seems that they're debuting and testing new, more powerful weapons every day. So what you have here is a situation where a nuclear powerhouse, Russia, with a formidable military, is actually aligning itself side by side with Islamic terrorists in the form of Iran and Hezbollah. Folks, this is unprecedented in human history. This is the first time that a nuclear power, a nuclear weapons powerhouse, Russia, has openly aligned itself with Islamic terrorists. Now, Iran, Hezbollah, they're just two sides of the same coin. You have ISIS on one side of the coin, the Sunni jihadist. You have Iran and Hezbollah on the other side, the Shia jihadist. At the end of the day, they really want the same thing, the return of the caliphate. They want to dominate the Islamic world. They'd like to dominate the entire world. Now, there's definitely theological differences for sure. They have a different way of doing things. They're at each other's throat across the Middle East right now, are Shia and Sunni terrorists. But the end game is really similar. So it's two sides of the same coin. Russia, again, Russia is openly aligning itself with Islamic terrorists in Syria. Are they sharing intelligence? I'd imagine that they are. You would think that they are. So, where does that leave us? Well, number one, we know that Israel will not accept this Iranian Hezbollah entrenchment in Syria. They won't accept another terror base, another terror front directly across from the beautiful Israeli communities in the Golan Heights. Folks, I'm up there frequently for our Christians United for Israel Watchman show. I'm in the Golan. I'm all along that Lebanon border. I can tell you, the barbarians are at the gates, literally. All that is separating Israel from the Golan, from southern Lebanon, where Hezbollah lives and breathes. Barbed wire fencing. Some good fencing for sure, but look, Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, has said in a future conflict, Hezbollah will look to invade Israel in the north. Maybe a small-scale invasion. Maybe Hezbollah, God forbid, targets a town like Metula along that border where I've spent a good amount of time. Think about this. Say Hezbollah, surprise attack, plants the Hezbollah flag in an Israeli village or town in northern Israel. Now, the IDF comes in, the Israel Defense Forces, wipes Hezbollah out quickly. But Hezbollah has planted that flag. They've taken pictures. It's gone viral around the world. That's a major propaganda victory for Hezbollah. Look for that in the next conflict between Hezbollah and Israel. And yes, it is coming. Look for Hezbollah to try and do that in a town across the border in northern Israel. Plant their flag, even if it's for 2 minutes. They take the pictures. It goes viral around the world. It inspires their followers. And we've conquered Israeli territory. This is the narrative of Hezbollah and Iran. They're already saying that the Israeli fighter jet that was shot down last month is a major game changer. You can imagine if they seized an Israeli town, even for 3 minutes, what a propaganda victory it would be. Dangerous times. Continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for Israel, because God's watching. God sees Israel's enemies gathering, and guess what? The Word of God says He laughs. He laughs. He's equipped His land. He's equipped His people. And Israel's ready. I've met with Israeli military officials over the past 2 years, Israeli lawmakers. I can tell you, Israel is ready. Let me check the time here, folks. See how much time I have left. We're running late, real late. There's so much to talk about with Iran, Hezbollah. But let's end on a positive note, shall we? With 3 minutes to go here on this CUFI U Facebook Live event. I hope that after this will encourage you enough that you might put an apple on my desk, your Professor Stakelbeck for CUFI University tonight. We've talked about heavy subject matter tonight. Hezbollah, Iran. If you're hiding under your chair right now, you can come out because here's the good news. Folks, May 14th, just 2 months away, the U.S. Embassy is moving to Jerusalem. Praise God. It's happening. It's happening. Our team at Christians United for Israel has fought for this. Our founder and chairman, Pastor John Hagee, man oh man, has fought for this for years. It's happening. God is moving. President Trump kept his word. He's moving the embassy May 14th. Our team at Christians United for Israel will be there. We'll be on the ground for the grand opening of the new U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. Ambassador David Friedman, our good friend, will be there, the U.S. Ambassador to Israel. What an exciting time. You know, folks, the more Israel's enemies gather, and Hezbollah, Iran, we're talking about all this tonight, it's heavy. But again, you need to know. You'd rather know than not know. I know you would. My people perish for lack of knowledge, the book of Hosea. But we talk about this heavy stuff. We have to. But man, oh man, on the other hand, the more Israel's enemies gather and press, the more God says, no, no, no. I'm a God who keeps his promises. I'm the God, he says, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's the God of Israel. He's the God of Israel. He neither slumbers nor sleeps. His hand is on his people. His hand is on his land. His hand will be on this new U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. We're going to bring it to you on the Watchman show on TBN every Friday and Wednesday. We'll bring it to you on social media here at Christians United for Israel. Folks, exciting things are happening. People say to me all the time, man, I wish I lived in Bible times. Guess what? You're living in Bible times today. It's all happening. We're in the 70th anniversary of the miraculous rebirth of Israel. Last year, 2017, marked the 50-year anniversary of the miraculous reunification of Jerusalem. Now the U.S. Embassy is moving there. Guatemala has followed America's lead. The Guatemalans are moving their embassy to Jerusalem. Now the Czech Republic is talking about using moving their embassy to Jerusalem. Exciting times. Be encouraged. God still sits on the throne. You know he does. I got to wrap up here, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. 2 quick things. Number 1, if you're not a member of Christians United for Israel, we are America's largest, we're the world's largest pro-Israel organization. 4 million. We just passed the 4 million member mark. 4 million followers of Jesus standing in the gap for God's people and God's land, for Zion's sake, and for such a time as this. Right now, 2018. Join us. Join the movement. CUFI.org, CUFI.org. Join us while you're there. Be sure to sign up for our 2018 Washington Summit right here in the belly of the beast, where I'm sitting right now, Washington, D.C., July 23rd and 24th. Join us in D.C. Make your voice heard. Tell your lawmakers what you think about the Iran deal and everything else. And if you visit CUFI.org, use the special discount code, Watchman. That's M-A-N, Watchman. You can come for $75. $75 for a summertime vacation in Washington, D.C. And you get to stand with thousands and thousands of pro-Israel Christians. And you might just see some very, very important speakers from the Trump administration. Last year we had Vice President Pence as our keynote. Come, join us. Join us this summer, 23rd and 24th. Join our movement. Thanks for joining me tonight. Your humble host, your humble Professor Stakelbeck here on CUFI University. Folks, God bless you. Until next time, remember, never hold your peace. God bless. Have a good night.